Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol battle report for the channel. Today in this 17 threat match, Hydra make their debut on the table going up against the Winter Guard in their second showing on the table layout you can see before you. So we're going to see how the new villains on the block do today against the, I'm not really sure in the comics whether the Winter Guard are considered evil or not, but whatever. Let's take a look at both sides. So here we have the Hydra affiliation with some assorted friends. And we don't usually do kind of like try-hardy lists here, it's more thematic more than anything else, because I feel like gatekeeping try-hards kill miniature games. But a friend of mine in Belgium is taking part in a Crisis Protocol tournament there, and he said, hey, I want to run Hydra, and I'd just gotten my Hydra releases at the time, so I was kind of brainstorming with him, and this is the 17 threat list I pitched to him. If you were playing less than 17 threat, it wouldn't work. If you were playing 18, that would be awkward, but 19, 20, 21, you could just put in, you know, a 2 threat, 3 threat, Bullseye, Hawkeye even, whoever you want, just to fill the extra space. But the core of the list is currently the only available Hydra leader, Baron Strucker, in the middle here. He has healing factor 1, he is only 3 threat, and in my opinion he has the stat line of a 4 threat character, including a very decent affiliation bonus. If any of these people attack someone who does not have a stats effect they transfer it over to them, or if they cause a stats effect once per turn, they heal 1 damage. It's a double barreled affiliation bonus, and it's really good, especially with Omega Red at the back there, because he's one of the few characters in the game who can inflict stats effects in enemy turns, because enemies who stop within 2 of him get poisoned, so he can heal on their turns. So that seems pretty decent to me. Baron Strucker himself, pretty good tanky wise, and there's ways to make him tankier thanks to Armin Zola, who's also immune to poison, so he can kind of hang around Baron Strucker and be fine, because Baron Strucker can kind of do AoE range 3 poison, which is I think even larger range than Omega Red, but it affects everybody, enemy and ally alike. He doesn't care, he just likes spreading that poison. As far as the actual Hydra affiliation, then we have Zemo. This Red Skull is not Hydra affiliated, this is the Cabal one, but he's kind of integral to how the list is going to work. The new Red Skull that's coming out in October, that is another alternative Hydra leader. So that's how we're doing it, and this is the cards they're bringing. Scientific Method, the High Council, Exceptional Healing, Advanced R&D, and Carbonadium Synthesizer. And here we have the Winter Guard, who I think is the exact same setup we saw last time, being led by Crimson Dynamo, the Russian Iron Man, Dark Star on his left or right, Red Guardian, and Ursa Major. His special power is he's a bear, and then the Winter Soldier is along just to fill the space, and he's kind of thematically with them prior to being taken by Hydra. And their tactics cards: Fusion Caster, Bear Hug, can't read that from here, Comrade's Keeper, Sovereign Strike, and Dark Aura Manifestation. So we have the secure is 17 threat, and that's the threat value being played. That's the infinity formula goes missing. That's the 4 serum canisters, 1 VP for each one held in the cleanup phase, and in the power phase everyone contesting gets 1 extra power. So there's going to be a lot of extra power generation this match. Then the extraction, 18 threat, is the classic Fear Group's world as worthy terrorized citizens. It's the hammers. It's everyone's favourite. It lets you roll lots of dice and do lots of damage. 1 virtue point for each one held. So if we just take a quick look at the map overview here, we have the 4 serum canisters right there, and then we have hammer, where's the one over here? It's behind the tree there. Hammer and hammer. So we'll be back at deployment. So with deployment done, the Winter Guard is to your left and Hydra is to the right, and Hydra is taking a first activation. Same number of miniatures in each side, but let's take a look at where they've set up. Strucker is down here next to Zola, then we have Red Skull in the middle facing down that first hammer, and then Omega Red and Zemo up there on the end. If we come down here for the Winter Guard, Bucky's on the end of the table right here, next to Red Guardian, Dark Star, Crimson Dynamo in the middle for them, and Ursa Major being a bear over there in the corner. So with that, let's jump into Battle Round 1. So Red Skull got the game started, and this is just phase 1 in like a 4-step plan for Hydra's machinations for this match. Tapped the cube for 3 power, and unfortunately did do 1 damage to himself with that. For his other action, he moved up to within 1 on the far side of the hammer and paid 1 power to pick it up. But the 3 he got from tapping the cube was immediately distributed to his team via advanced R&D. So you can pick up the 5 power, you distribute 1 to your allied characters. He gave 1 to Zemo, 1 to Omega Red, and 1 to Armin Zola, all falling into place. So with that extra power given to Zemo and Omega Red, that increases their threat radius for the turn pretty substantially, because Zemo can charge now and Omega Red can do his ensnare. So instead the Winter Guard activated someone on this flank of the table rather than over Zemo and Omega Reds. They went with Bucky. He moved a move and a half just within one of the hammer here, and he paid his 1 power to snatch it up. Stage 2 in Hydra's Alpha Strike plan was to activate Armin Zola and immediately pay 2 power, because he got that extra power from Red Skull, to use Scientific Method on Baron Strucker. So, Armin Zola spends 2, you pick another allied character that's threat 3 or less within 3 of him, and Strucker was right next to him. They suffer 2 damage, of which he'll heal 1 after his turn because he has healing factor 1. And for the rest of the game they gain ESP leakage and the unnatural mutation superpower, so we might keep this near Strucker just to remember he's got it. It gives him a range 2 for 1 power 6 dice mystic with extra damage for skulls rolled by the defense, and then he gets 2 extra defense dice unless the person attacking him is willing to pay an additional 2 power. It's very, very powerful. Obviously the downside is taking that 2 damage and only being playable on a 3 or threat or less character, but Strucker is too good for a 3 threat character, again in my opinion, so that just makes him even better. But for Zola's actual turn, he moves small but he's on a bigger base, so it got him there. And then his basic attack is range 4, so he actually could reach Bucky, and he gets, it's called Prototype Weapons, and it's only 4 dice, but he gets to pick the element it is, so he picked Mystic, because Bucky is super weak to Mystic. He only rolls 2 defense dice, and he managed to do 3 damage. He only gains 1 flat power regardless of whether it does damage or not, but he managed to hurt Bucky pretty badly. Not a single wild in the attack roll though, but if he does get wilds in the attack roll, he gets to inflict a bunch of stats effects. Next up for the Winter Guard was their leader, Crimson Dynamo. He moved up to the far side of the hammer. He started in front of, paid his 1 power, picked it up, and then moved over to secure this infinity formula. Hanging back though, he's just within 1 on the back end of it there, just to stay out of the potential threat radius of Omega Red. He's got range 4 on the ensnare, but he only moves small, so as long as he doesn't go after the hammer, he's pretty safe. So Baron Strucker activated for his Hydra team. He moves medium, and he did so once, but then he only has range 3, so he couldn't reach Bucky. So he just moved forward again ever so slightly. He's within range 1 of the Infinity Formula there to help Zola control it, but nothing else he can do this turn. He needs at least, I think it's 3 power to do his big poison spread, and Zola's safe because he's immune to it. But yeah, he can't even spread the poison this turn yet. But he is healing 1 at the end of his turn. The Red Guardian activated, moved up medium to secure the closest Infinity Formula, and then chucked his range 4 shield throw into Baron Strucker, and was unable to do any damage. Still generates 1 flat power regardless of whether it does damage or not, so he got that out of it, but could have been better. Well, the Winter Guard have nothing to fear from Ensnared this turn. Omega Red activated, he moves small, so he did that twice in order to get within, just within 1 of the hammer, and paid 1 of his 2 power to pick it up. And he is contesting, I think, the serum, but he's not holding it. He's not within 1, but he's probably within 2. Either way though, if anyone does decide to charge in, for instance a giant bear down here, if they end within 2 of him, they are going to get poisoned, and that, well, if he had any damage, that would heal him. Dark Star activated, moved up medium next to Red Guardian, and that also put her within range for Strucker. She did her basic Dark Star strike. She gets full rerolls on it, 5 dice, only generates her 1 flat power, and despite Strucker rolling 2 extra dice because she couldn't pay the 2 to stop him, which means he was rolling 5, he still managed to take 1 damage from it. Very unlikely, or that was very unlikely I should say, but yeah, it got through for 1. Well, last activation in turn 1 was Baron Zemo for Hydra anyway, so he just moved up to secure that Infinity Formula there. Can't do anything else, so he's just banking that power, and it is over to the Big Bear to end off the battle round fully. So Ursa Major just moved up small twice to where you can see him. He's holding that back Infinity Formula with Crimson Dynamo, but is outside of range 2 of Omega Red. So no poison spreading this turn, and that takes us to scoring. So at the end of battle round 1, everything is pretty much even to Stevens, although I think the Winter Guard took a bit more damage overall than Hydra did. But points wise, both sides hold 2 Infinity Formulas each for 1 victory point each, and each side hold 2 hammers. Bucky has 1, and who else? Crimson Dynamo for the Winter Guard, and then Red Skull and Omega Red have it for Hydra. So everyone who is contesting one of the formulas will be getting 1 extra power in the power phase that we're jumping into now. Red Skull won't be Bucky won't be. I think that's it. Everyone else is getting extra, so as we go into round 2, Hydra also still maintain priority, and that could be very significant. So Baron Strucker got round 2 started for Hydra, and he had a fun turn. He started by doing his basic range 3 5 dice energy attack with Incinerate on Wilds. He paid 1 for Arrogance though, which means that in his attack roll he counts skulls as successes, but whoever he's hitting counts any skulls in the defense roll as successes as well. It ended up working out in his favour though. He did 2 damage to Bucky, which is enough that he's dazed, exactly enough. If he hadn't done Arrogance, he would only have done 2 damage, and Bucky would have blocked 1, taken 1, stayed standing with 1 health. But because of those skulls counting, he did 4 damage, Bucky blocked 2, and took 2. So it worked out that particular time. Not sure, it only costs 1 to do as well. It's just, I'm not sure what the statistics on it are regarding, well, I guess if you're rolling more dice, you've just got 1 more success on the die, haven't you? Either way, Bucky's dazed, Strucker paid 1, took his hammer, and then rather than being a coward, Strucker moved medium for his other action and is charged in over here. Then he spent his last 2 power he had on him for Death Spore Virus, so any character, includes enemies and allies, within 3 of him become poisoned. So he poisoned Darkstar and Red Guardian, and that means his Hydra High Council affiliation bonus kicks in and he heals 1, because it only kicks in once per turn, per character. So even though he poisoned 2 people, he can't heal twice, but still gets that heal. He's still tanky thanks to that scientific method. We'll see if being brave pays off. So we're staying over here as the Winter Guard activated Darkstar first, and it was a toss-up between 5 dice fully rerollable going up against 3 dice defense, or 7 dice with a bleed going up against 5. In the end she went for the bigger dice roll, spent 3 on Rending Force. It can be physical or energy. She chose energy because Strucker has less energy defense. Oh, forgot to leave the damage there. He only took 1 but did get bled. Still probably not the best option. Probably should have forced 5 dice with rerolls against 3, but hindsight is 20/20. She then moved over here to actually be controlling this Infinity Formula, and the Winter Guard affiliation bonus kicks in when she ends her turn, or activates rather. She can get rid of 1 stats effect, so she got rid of the poison. Omega Red activated for Hydra next, and started by doing his range 3 Spaghetti Carbonara attack on to Ursa Major. Actually got him pretty good, got him for 3, and he was going to do an ensnare to start his turn, pull the bear out of position, but with them being on a point, the Winter Guard affiliation bonus, the other half of it, could kick in, and there's a good chance he won't be pushed, so it seemed like a waste of power. So he just retreated to hold the back formula there, with Zemo having successfully dealt quite a blow to the 7 health bear. So the big bear activated and started by spending a total of 5 power on a charge, plus his barehanded slap, whatever his spender is called, which is the big slap with the medium throw before damage is dealt and a stagger after damage is dealt. Did it on Zemo because he moved up and Zemo was in range. Chucked him, didn't hit the car, so no impact damage or anything like that, and he actually fully blocked the attack as well. It wasn't a great roll, and Zemo has Strategic Genius for that 1 die reroll on attack and defense. I don't think I mentioned, but Strucker has the exact same roll as well. But after doing that, since it was 1 action combined, the charge with the attack, he moved back, because with Red Skull there as well, there's no way he's getting control of that objective. He just wanted to do some damage or displace and run. So he moved back small and made sure that he is outside of range 3 of Omega Red to avoid the basic attack coming in at the start of the next turn. Red Skull was up for Hydra next. He tapped the cube once again, this time did not do any damage to himself, and then immediately spent that 3 power he generates to teleport Zemo within 2, to put him further forwards to hopefully accommodate just him having 1 action thanks to that stagger. Then he moved medium towards the same Infinity Formula. Didn't get within range 1 of it, but is within range 2. Red Guardian opened his turn with the Siberian Shield Slam for 3 power. Didn't want to pay the 2 to make Strucker roll less, so it was going up against 6 defense dice, because Strucker's got 4 physical defense. Either way, it didn't do any damage, but it does include a throw small. Chucked Strucker away from the Infinity Formula back over here, and then for his other action threw his shield at him just to generate 1 flat power, because that means he's sitting on enough to do the tactics card that's basically Heroes for Hire. But the Shield Slam 4 dice versus 6 defense dice, thanks to scientific method, Strucker just took it to the face and it boinged off him, no damage. Armanzola moved up small to the far side of the Infinity Formula he's guarding, and then used his range 4 weapons, his basic 4 dice attack, on Red Guardian. He paid 2 though for experimental enhancements, I think it's called. It gives him 2 extra dice to whatever attack he's doing, but if the roll contains any skulls at all, he takes 1 damage. You'll notice he has 1 damage on him, but Red Guardian has none. Red Guardian spent 2 on Red Refraction Field or whatever it's called. It's his version of Vibranium Shield, but it just makes him add blanks to successes. Unnecessary, as it turns out. There was 1 success in the attack roll and 1 skull, and he fully blocked it. So all Armin Zola managed to do on his turn there, besides some repositioning, was hurt himself. Well, thanks to Bucky getting dazed, it's already the last activation of turn 2 for the Winter Guard. Crimson Dynamo moved up to help secure that formula, and then fired his basic attack, which is his Electric Beam. Is that just what it's called? Electric Beam? Blast, sorry. Beam 4, 5 dice up to 6 because of his hammer. I haven't been mentioning the hammers, but they are throwing in dice where relevant. And he used that, it hit Omega Red, and Zemo got Omega Red for 1. That isn't even reduced down because of his armor, that's just he did 1. And he got Zemo for 2 though, and also applied shock to him, which is just about visible there. So he did pretty well, and he's helping hold the point. So Zemo is taking us to the end of turn 2, and it looks like he hasn't really moved, but he did do a lot with his turn, and he actually made full use of the Hydra affiliation bonus abilities. So he spent 4 on a charge Steel Rush, so that's move, attack, and then Steel Rush has a built-in medium move afterwards, so that's why he's back where he was. And he went over and used it on Ursa Major because he's got less physical defense dice than Crimson Dynamo, and got him real good, got him for 3, but the fact he did any damage at all is the important part. He had shock, so he was rolling 1 less die, but he started the turn with the shock, and the attack he did, Steel Rush, inflicts bleed. So in inflicting bleed on Ursa Major, that activates the second half of the Hydra High Council, heals him for 1, and then because he had a status effect the person he hit with an attack that did damage didn't have, he transfers it over to them, so he just gave the shock to Ursa Major. So he went up there, rocked the bear upside the head, ran back and just transferred a negative status effect as well as inflicting a new one which healed him. That is the real potency of that leadership right there. So at the end of battle round 2, I did forget to mention that's Ursa Major down to 1 HP remaining, and the Winter Guard have snatched first activation now. As we go to turn 3, Bucky's obviously flipping his card. Points wise though, the Winter Guard scored the 1 less point this turn because they lost the hammer Bucky was holding, so they hold 2 of the Infinity Formulas, and those who are contesting it are going to gain power, so everyone, wait, Bucky won, but everyone else will. So they gained 2 from that, and they still have 1 hammer on Crimson Dynamo, so they gained 3, putting them up to 7. Hydra, on the other hand though, they hold 2 points and 3 hammers, so they gained 5 rather than the 3, and have taken a lead now to 9. So 9 leads against 7 in Hydra's favour, but the Winter Guard are going first, so this is their chance to strike back. Man, we have a lot of stuff to cover at the top of turn 3 here. We started with Ursa Major activating, and he used a Tandy's card, but first he then did a charge and just did a basic attack. If you ever wondered what a spike in this game looks like, it looks like when you're rolling 5 dice for your basic free attack, losing 1 die because you're shocked, which didn't get followed with him there, but the 4 dice you roll instead of the 5 are all crits, and then 3 of those converted into more successes. That's what a spike looks like. And poor Zemo, even with 1 reroll from Strategic Master, whatever it's called, either way, not enough. Now, the reason he had 2 damage on him before all that was done is because when Ursa Major began his turn, Sovereign Strike was used, which I don't think we saw last time the Winter Guard were on the field, and this was just, did not notice it was a threat, so paid the price. Any Winter Guard can spend 3 to play this card, pick a terrain feature size 4 or less within 4, any enemy characters within 1 of it take 2 damage, and the terrain feature is destroyed because they're bombing it, basically. So the Daily Bugle stand exploded, Red Skull and Zemo were both within 1, so they took 2 damage from that, and as a result of this nonsense right here, Zemo is obviously dazed. However, at the end of Ursa Major's turn, he didn't cure his bleed, so he is also dazed. So he did some good work. He went on a bear rage and then dazed. So we're actually only halfway through Baron Strucker's turn, but it's a night for, or day really, for weird rolls. I know it's almost Halloween, but this is a bit ridiculous. He used ESP, what is it called, Lance? Leakage, sorry, ESP Leakage for 1 power. He made sure he was in, well that's why that's there, just to make sure he was in range 2 of Bucky going up against his rubbish Mystic Defense. 7 dice instead of 6 because he's holding a hammer. But that was the roll. That's the roll right there. 5 wilds, 2 blanks. That is freaky. Anyway, Bucky has so far only blocked 1, so he's taken 4 damage. I think he's alive on 1 health. Still deciding what to do with Strucker's other action. He might just finish Bucky off. Oh, and also, because he did damage, that bleed has now transferred over to Bucky as well. Yeah, Strucker opted to stay where he was and just do his basic 5 dice up to 6 blast with Incinerate. Didn't get the Incinerate to proc, but did get Bucky for 2 damage, which is actually how much he has. I forgot he goes up on his flip side, he has 6 health. But yeah, he's out of there, so the bleed doesn't matter either, and he will heal 1 at the end of his turn. So after all that nonsense, Red Guardian activated and decided to take advantage of Armin Zola's weakness, which is physical defense. He only has 2. So although he's only rolling 4 dice for a shield throw, he did 2 of them. First one smacked Zola in the head for 3 damage. It did get the ricochet into Strucker, did nothing to him. It bounced off him again thanks to all those defense dice. If you remember an old Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns is about to be hit by a paper airplane or something, or a kite, Smithers jumps in front of him and then it boings off his head like metal hitting metal. That's how I imagine the shield hitting Strucker. But anyway, then the second shield throw, that was a rubbish roll, and Zola blocked the damage. Took nothing from that. Well, Zola was getting a little bit worried about how much health he's got left. He had 2 health left. He did his range 4 basic attack, 4 dice. He gets to pick which element it is, and he did it on Red Guardian. Didn't do any damage, but because he got 1 wild, he gets to pick a stats effect. It doesn't really matter which stats effect he picks, because when Red Guardian activates, it will just instantly be removed, unless he has multiple, and then he has to pick. But for inflicting the stats effect, he gets to heal 1 damage, thanks to the Hydra High Council. For his other action, he retreated to the far end there because he's worried about Darkstar trying to pick off that last couple bit of HP he has left. Well, Darkstar activated and did indeed move up since Red Guardian's got that one held, because there's no one on the side of the table that could contest. She moved up so she was just within range 4, so she could do her 5 dice, generates 1 power for herself, full rerolls on Armin Zola. Got him for 2, so if he had not inflicted that shock, or any status, on Red Guardian to heal 1, that would have been a daze. But because he healed that 1, he's alive with 1 HP. Omega Red activated, second last activation for Hydra this turn, and it's a bit of a weird play for him, but all he did was double move. And he double moved to get down here to contest this Infinity formula with, or against, Crimson Dynamo. He ended his turn within 2 of him, so that means he's poisoned, but that doesn't really matter because when Crimson Dynamo activates, he can heal it away immediately, thanks to the Unbreakable Defense, or whatever the affiliation bonus is called for the Winter Guard. But he inflicted a stats effect, so he healed 1. He is back to full health, and that makes Crimson Dynamo have a difficult choice. Stay there and contest that point, go up there and contest that point against Red Skull, fight Omega Red, and if he ends his turn within 2 of him, he'll get poisoned again, which means any damage he does do to Omega Red, he'll be healing 1 back unless he's dazed. And he'll can't get rid of the poison until he activates again, so it will affect his power generation. So there's a lot of tough decisions being forced here, and that's the benefit of that Hydra affiliation bonus. Well, decisions were made, and he decided he didn't want to get re-poisoned, and that Omega Red is too tough of a target even though he's also holding a hammer. So he spent 2 for propulsion thrusters to place within 2, then he moved small to where you can see him, and then he did his basic electric blast on Red Skull, because Red Skull's built up 3 damage already, he's only got 3 left. So he was rolling 5 dice up to 6 because of the hammer he was holding, and he had 1 success in his roll, although hilariously it still did damage, because there's the defense roll over there. So Red Skull did take 1 damage, but sadly that was probably the best play. Dice just weren't on Crimson Dynamo's side. So Red Skull activated, he spent 3 to teleport himself within 2 in order to be contesting that point, and then his goal was simple: do 2 basic strikes, hope for a wild on each of them, honestly, to get that push, and then hope that the Winter Guard affiliation bonus didn't stop him being pushed. All said and done, he did 3 damage, reduced down to 2 because of his metal alloy, and then he just did 1 damage flat with the other one. Didn't even get any wilds, so there wasn't even a chance at a push, so there was no roll required for the Winter Guard affiliation. He did 3 damage all said and done though, which isn't bad, to Crimson Dynamo, who does have a hammer. He's got 3 health left, same as Red Skull now, and with that we are going to scoring. So at the end of turn 3, things are going out of hand for the Winter Guard, with Hydra pulling very far ahead. Hydra has 3 of the hammers still on Strucker, Red Skull, and Who else has the last one? Omega Red, of course. So that's 3 generated there. Omega Red is holding that back point for 1, and Zola is holding this point. So they gained 5 again, taking them up to 14 in total. 2 required to win. The Winter Guard hold this point here for 1, and they still have a hammer and Crimson Dynamo. So they gain 2, taking them up to 9. So 14 plays 9. The Winter Guard still have first activation in the next turn as well, and they'll still be generating some extra power here and there. But they've got a lot of catch up to do if they want to turn this around, and they're a man down now as well with Bucky gone, so we'll see what happens. Well, to get Battle Round 4 started, Crimson Dynamo spent 3 on Fusion Caster, which is not in focus, there we go. Gives him access to a 7 dice up to 8 because he's holding a hammer and beam. Oh, you know what, this would cost him 1 more power. He has more than enough, but yeah, that would cost him more than 1 power. I was kind of forgetting that. But I hope that didn't affect anything previously in the game. I'm just having a quick think. I don't think it did. Either way, gives him access to the Fusion Caster. He rolls 2 extra dice for crits, although there was only 1 instance of a crit. So he has dealt 1 damage to himself. But he hit Zemo first. Poor targeting selection there. Should have attacked Red Skull first. Zemo took 4 and lived. Then he went after Red Skull. Red Skull paid 2 for Hail Hydra. He gets to push someone in front of the beam. He picked Zemo, took 3 more. Zemo is out of there, so then he just did an electric blast on Red Skull to try and take him out. Needed to do 2 and only did 1. Shocked him, but wasn't quite able to finish the job. Well, Red Skull activated and was hoping to sap some power when he did a Cosmic Blast onto Ursa Major. Either way, oh actually he wouldn't have transferred the shock, never mind, because he didn't do any damage with it. So the shock is actually still on him and he did not heal 1, because you need to do damage. So that means he's still 1 away from death, which is, or days, sorry. Which is not good. He teleported himself range 2 for superpower and then moved medium to get as far away as possible because they just need to score 2 points. So he's being a little bit cheeky and just running off with his hammer. But I think Ursa Major has enough on him for charge, so he's still going to have to weather at least 1 blow. Well, Ursa Major moved up small, then spent 2 for charge. That's another small move plus a range 2 attack afterwards, 5 dice. There was his roll right there, with the 1 crit thrown in there, which converted into another hit. Red Skull 4 physical defense. He rolled 3 and he took nothing, which is probably game right there with his survival. There's no one who can really threaten Omega Red. He's on full health, so he could just run away as well, honestly, if he doesn't even want to sit on that point. We'll play out the rest of the round at least a little bit, but yeah, I think that secured it right there. Baron Strucker activated, and he's been a real monster, especially with that scientific method played on him. He moved up, so he's contesting that. He's just within range 1. He spread out his death spores to poison Darkstar and Red Guardian, which also, as we're pointing out at this point, had Baron Zemo still been alive and dazed or KO'd someone, it would have met the criteria for Dark Council, or whatever it's called, which lets them spawn in a threat 4 just for the rest of the game, because the criteria is Red Skull has to have at least 6 power on him, Zola has to have, or is securing or contesting a secure, which he is, Strucker has to be within a certain distance of 2 people with stats effects, and Zola has to, Zemo has to kill someone. So it would have happened had Zemo not had to take a laser beam to the face for Red Skull. Either way though, then he just did his basic attack on Red Guardian. Only meant to do 1 damage, no, wanted to do much more. Only ended up doing 1 damage. Red Guardian did pay 2 to do the reflection field, or reflection field, whatever it's called, to count his blanks. Didn't make a difference in the end. But yeah, Strucker has just been a real beast. Darkstar moved up medium and finished what she started. She did a rending force, 7 dice physical against the 2 defense dice poor Zola had. Did 4, much more than was required. He is now dazed, so she is holding that point. Again, it's not really going to matter what Omega Red does. He could just simply be safe on that side. So really it's, can Red Guardian spike against Strucker just for some satisfaction? I guess we'll see. Well, Red Guardian got rid of his shock via the affiliation bonus, then opted to do 2 basic 5 dice strikes, but each time paying 2 to get the extra defense dice Strucker has away, so he's just rolling 4 physical. First one did nothing, second one did 2. He did, however, get the throw. He didn't do it. Is it an optional throw? You know what, it is not an optional throw, so he couldn't have done 2 attacks. He would have thrown him after the first one. It doesn't really matter, it just means that he's holding this. So the second one actually wouldn't have hit, so he took no damage. But he would have got thrown away, so he's not holding that. It's not going to really make a difference, but let's go to the final scores. So as is often happens at the end of turn 4, it is the end of the game. Although honestly the Winter Guard saved some face there with the way that turn worked out. If Red Skull went down and dropped the hammer he was holding, they would have only just won. Because Hydra, they have 2 hammers, Red Skull has 1, Strucker has 1. Is it Strucker that has it? Yeah. And they hold 1 point. The one Omega Red has over there. So they got 17 of the 16 required to win. So if Red Skull had gone down, it would have been 16 on the dot, as it turns out, thanks to pushing Strucker away. But as it stands, the Winter Guard, they hold this point, they hold this point, they hold that point, so they gain 3, and Crimson Dynamo still has a hammer. So they gain 4, taking them to 13. So 17 plays 13 at the end of the game. So it was a hard fought fight. It could have been 14-16, which would have been even better. But yeah, Strucker with Scientific Method played on him early, which does require you to have someone else who can generate power and then use Advanced R&D to give Zola the power required to play this. Is such a good card, especially if you're going up against people who need their power for other things. But yeah, Strucker was a monster, like constantly healing with giving out stats effects, constantly causing stats effects, having healing factor. Didn't even need to use exceptional healing, he had that in his back pocket. If he ever got a massive spike against him, he has a counter to that if you bring that tactics card. He is so good. Next month, Hydra is getting a different leader. They're getting a new Red Skull who is purely focused on like power gain. I think his affiliation bonus is gain more power if you're holding like a bunch of secures or something. I can't quite remember offhand. But he's all about that, and it comes with quite a few very hilariously thematic tactics cards. But Strucker, his affiliation bonus is so good. And he is too good to be a 3 threat. I know everybody's focused on how overpowered Malekith is right now. He should be 4 threat. That's my opinion on that. Zola, he's got an obvious weakness. Anyone with a physical attack, which is like 90% of the game, they can beat him up easily. That's why he has 6 health. And he does a lot of damage to himself if he buffs his attacks. Omega Red works really well with Hydra. The current Red Skull works really well with Hydra. Just all in all, it is a powerful list, I think. Would have been even better if it was like Gamma Shelters or Demon Portals or Dormammu Portals. You know, anything like that. This objective setup actually wasn't ideal for them. You want people clumped together, and then they would really do even better, I think. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Next time we'll be seeing S.H.I.E.L.D. with some backup, probably, with the new releases. I'm not sure who they'll be going against, but that's the plan anyway. Thank you for watching, and if you want to support what we do here, please do consider becoming a channel member, pressing the thanks button, or checking out the Patreon. It's all reinvested in the channel to buy more miniatures, to play more games. Thank you very much for watching, though, and hopefully see you next time. Ta-ta for now.